Okay, do 4?
Yep, Mark's getting ready.
Okay, yeah, because I may just take the lead on this one, okay?
All right, this is Welcome to the City of Bowie, regular City Council meeting for Tuesday, January 16. I'd like to ask everybody to stand who's able for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
I
allegiance
pledge to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty, we have a quorum this evening. I'd like to thank everybody for participating on this cold evening and being able to make accommodations at the last minute. So thank you very much, everybody. We apologize to everybody watching at home and those here with us this evening. We've had some technical difficulties and we think we've overcome those, and the meeting will proceed accordingly. Let's see, agenda items, additions, deletions, any amendments?
Sorry. Yep, one quick one. On the consent agenda tonight were 2 items related to the sectional map amendment. I just wanted to know from staff, was there a timing issue with that, as we have a couple council members who are not involved in the conversations related to these recommendations, and I don't happen to see Joe here today. Was there anything related to the timing on that, where we couldn't make that an option for discussion, maybe not tonight, but at a subsequent meeting? There were about 16 items on there, some of which I know are going to be close to the hearts of some of our colleagues.
The hearing associated with this on February 13th, so we could probably get it in the first week in February.
If my colleagues don't object, could we do that to give all of our colleagues time just to make sure that they agree with the 16 points in here? I doubt there's going to be too much disagreement. I just want to make sure we have an opportunity to discuss it for any of my colleagues who might need to talk to Joe.
Along those lines, here, are there certain particular members who are not familiar or have not had that chance to review them?
Was that the point you were making, Councilman Esci?
I just wanted to make sure if anyone wanted the time to talk about it, they could.
Okay. I don't feel the need.
All right. Tim, how are you feeling about it? You comfortable?
No, everybody's fine. We could just move forward.
All right. Roxy, you're good? Wanda?
Wait, are you asking, are we good on Mike's question, or what are you asking?
Affirmative. Are you
Mike's
good?
Question?
There's an agenda item on the consent agenda, item A, and Mike raised the concern that everyone may not.
Yes, I'm good with that.
You're
Yes.
good with that as is. All right. Wanda?
I'm good with it as is as well.
Excellent, thank you. Okay.
There's one agenda item addition that I have. Well, not really agenda addition, but more of a direction, but is now the time to raise?
You have to, absolutely. If you have an agenda item, please do so.
Yes, a couple of weeks ago, we had moved forward with naming for former State Senator J.J. Peters. I just wanted to add an agenda addition to basically align on when to really just align next steps on when we are going to do that, and so we can move forward on that.
All right, I will add item A to new business, and that is to discuss the naming for the park in honor of Douglas J.J. Peters.
And it's less about like discussing it, but more just getting direction, getting more updates, timeline from staff on when that's going to happen or what that's looking like today.
All right, we'll add it to the agenda and we'll see if staff has any information readily available, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Any objections? All right. Next item on the agenda, citizen participation. City Council Clerk.
Just want, for the record, we did receive a comment via email and all of council was copied on it. in regards to thanking us for, or thanking you for a placement of a speed camera. So that'll be part of the record for this evening.
Excellent, thank you. All right, we have three speakers for this evening. I'd like to invite the first guest up, but before doing so, I'd just like to remind everybody who's speaking this evening, this is an opportunity for presenting your thoughts and ideas to the City Council. It's not a dialogue back and forth, but more of a presentation format, and each speaker will have up to 5 minutes. Does not mean you have to use it in its entirety. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Matt Tedesco and Mr. Scott Cooper.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Temp, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For the record, Matthew Tedesco on behalf of Mr. Scott Cooper, who's standing behind me to my right, your left, with the law firm of McNamee Hosey here in Prince George's County in Greenbelt. We're really here just to introduce Mr. Cooper to you all. As a recently new property owner within the city, we do have a development application that we will be pursuing in the future. That is not the subject of tonight's presentation or hearing. So I'm just here as a liaison to Mr. Cooper to introduce him to you all so that he can just say a few words to you. But we will be back before you at least once, if not twice, maybe more on different things. But we wanted to take the opportunity tonight just to say good evening, hello, and to introduce you to Mr. Cooper. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name's Scott Cooper. I am one of the partners at Premier A2 Bowie, Maryland, LLC, and I've developed self-storage for the last 30-plus years across the United States. The last 7 years, I've been a JV partner with Bain Capital, one of the largest investment funds in the United States, and I just want to thank you for giving me the couple minutes here to introduce myself, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Excellent.
Right? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Tedesco, and thank you, Mr. Cooper. Next person we have is Akoma Love.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Ms. Love. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, kind of brought my portable workshop. My presentation is about Black History Month. And there's Walmart. Everything here comes from Walmart. And I have reached out to, I'm also homeless. I've reached out to try to engage with them to promote the works of people we call homeless, to stop feeding people who can feed themselves. These shelters, was it yesterday? I can't remember her name, but one of the news anchors, she did a pop-up shop. She had all these 700,000 billion items and never asked anybody. So you're giving to people and never ask people, what do you do, Mr. Dennis? What do you do, Mr. Mayor? What do you do? It's not fair that we keep making the world believe, and especially children, that there is nothing that we can do. Everybody's mentally ill. That's not true. So my recommendation is to call the churches to open the doors, black, white, and everything. Let's have a concert where we actually raise money to turn these shelters into a Black Wall Street business hub. I only started doing this February 28th, 2018, February 28th, a couple of years ago. And if I can do this at 100 years old, what can anybody else do? You have people to cut hair, you have people who do painting, woodwork. There's a whole slew of things that people do. We need a survey, okay, of all of the talents and the skills. Now, pertaining to Black History Month and pertaining to celebrating Black history all year round, Walmart has never done that. You might find a t-shirt. You have as many t-shirts for St. Patrick's Day right now as you do for Black History Month. And there's only one here, one here, one here, one here. You have 3 rows of Valentine's Day stuff. Now, I've only just recently started reaching out, okay, specifically for this project. And I was disappointed because what they said they was gonna do, they didn't do. And I said, well, how do we go about this? I met Clinton Truesdale's barbershop, okay? And I saw that he's a council member and a businessman, and his areas of focus, community engagement and economic development. I said this would be a great opportunity to come out and present. Let's do something. We have to do something. We cannot, I'm 68, I cannot go another year. If I live to be 69 on February 8th, there has to be, and I don't want no cake, I'm already fasting and everything, so to get rid of all of that junk, you know, we need to have a party, not a party of balloons, of people to put in place something that's gonna work for the community that's actually spending money in these places. And I realized something today, this is the last point. I have been grieving all of my life. All of my life, I was bused to white schools, which if you don't give children with the Brown versus Board of Education, if you don't give them education about who they are, where they come from, and you're sitting around watching everybody else, it's like, it makes you Looney Tune, not crazy, okay? What do? You see what's happening in the news everywhere. God help us. And with Bowie being over 51% African American, I truly want to be a part of making something happen for us so that we can see images. Our children need to, but we do too. We do too. From the time I was a child, I've been fighting. And it's been a fight that I didn't ask for. So, and thank you. Thank you. Oh, I have something else. I have a gift.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Can I give her a gift? I actually had made a special bracelet and earrings for her.
Sure.
Ms. Hernandez. I'll give it to you before I leave. Okay, thank you. I won't tell you what color it is either. You have to be surprised. All right, and thank you. Everyone I know has gifts and talents. Everyone, no exception.
Thank you very much, Ms. Love. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, and thanks for speaking this evening. Next on the list, Mr. Leslie Konitz.
Pretty good presentation in my name. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I'll be brief, Mayor Adams, promise.
Okay.
Okay. I came with a solution to an issue that was brought up at the last meeting, and it regards the Public Safety Committee with 2 applicants in 1 opening, okay? I'm a member of the committee, but I'm not talking about on behalf of the committee. I'm talking on behalf of myself to try and solve the issue. So I will send out an email to everybody here, because people that aren't here aren't going to have a chance to talk to me after this if they want to. If anybody wants to talk to me about the solution that I have to this, I'll hang around, and I'll be very brief about it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for being here on this nice, bright, shiny evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We greatly appreciate your time and your input. All right, and that's all we have this evening for citizen participation. Next item is city boards and committees, where we have nothing on the agenda for that. So we'll turn to council announcements. Let me start, if I may, just saying a special thank you to all of our dedicated employees who committed a lot of time, energy, and effort to ensuring that our streets were plowed and everything was cleared in a manner that allowed business to continue. Very much appreciate that. A special call out to Missy Marlette, who was chief dog on that, and really helped to move that project along. I know that a lot of people came in and worked on the holiday. So thank you very much to everybody who was engaged in that effort. It does not go unnoticed. I've even heard someone mention that there's a big difference between our streets and those in the counties that surround us. So congratulations to another job well done. Any more council announcements? Mr. Brady?
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to first thank the Diversity Committee for another wonderful presentation by our young people with the Martin Luther King Art Contest, seeing the pride on the children's faces, seeing the pride on the parents, but most importantly, sending that message that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King really stood for, and that being love. And so I just want to thank them for, again, hosting that this year and making that happen, and for all who's assisted with that. Particular special shout out to Lori Cunningham and all of the Diversity Committee, everyone for what they did. The other thing I would just like to do is do similar to what you did. I would like to thank Una and the emergency management team and everyone for all the updates that they were putting out today and keeping all of us informed and the citizens informed of what was going on with the weather. I would like to again thank them for that. I think it's a job well done. But more importantly, I'd also like to warn all of our citizens. Again, if you don't have to go out, please don't, because as it's getting later, they're expecting a freeze over of the roads and it will be dangerous. So please be very safe out there this evening. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anybody else?
I do.
Councilmember Ndebamadu, please.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem Wolfley. Good evening, residents and staff. I echo the sentiments of my colleagues on a job well done handling the snow. My update is surrounding our newly planned school that is STEM charter school that's coming to Bowie this fall, 2024. I do want to update the community and let everybody know that the school has already received 154 applicants, and that's prior to any type of publicizing that both the school board, as well as the superintendent's office and the city of Bowie have done. So I do want to encourage all parents that are throughout the city of Bowie to please, if you can, please go ahead and go on Scribbles and go ahead and apply if you are interested in getting your kids signed up for the new STEM school that's coming to the city of Bowie. To date, we have 101 applications for kindergarten and 53 applications for first grade, which is essentially what's going to happen the first year. The first year will be for kindergarten and first grade, and then there'll be a slow growth model every single year following that. So 2025 will be grades 2, 2026 will be grades 3, and it'll go on so forth until they hit the threshold. So I do want to let everybody know, please go ahead and go through Scribbles and apply. I will be emailing more information out to my newsletter, as well as our Director of Communications, Una Cooper, to make sure that that's publicized and shared with all residents. But I do want to encourage you to apply. The other update that is essentially attached to that announcement is I will be going back before the school board, meeting with the superintendent along with our school board member to essentially codify the threshold for Bowie applicants. So really right now, because there has been so much demand around this STEM school, and there already has been 154 applicants, what that means is that once you get to 160 applicants, it is an automatic lottery system. And so what that means is that it is just 100% lottery. It does not matter where you live. As long as you are a Prince George's County resident, you will be able to attend the school. What I am meeting with the school board and going back to testify in front of the school board about is to set aside exceptions 30% for Bowie residents. So if you are a Bowie resident, that will increase our chances. 30% of slots would be essentially set aside for Bowie residents. And then the 70%, the rest of the school, will be for the guaranteed lottery system. So that is the change that we are going back to make. We did not anticipate the school having so much demand. It's great news, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we are securing spaces for Bowie residents. If this is going to be on our land and our city limits, on our infrastructure, there needs to be guaranteed slots for Bowie residents. And we'll be going back in front of the school board and testifying on that. So thank you so much. I appreciate the time, Mayor Pro Tem Wolfley, and I wish everybody a safe time during this icy season. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ndebamadu. Let's see, anybody else? Nothing here. Councilmember Rogers, no? All right, thank you very much. We'll now move along to the city manager's report.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, you stole my thunder about the Streets Division, but also I'd like to say that our finance department is working really hard right now on the budget process for FY25, and that's going to take up everybody's time for the next month or so. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. Is there a motion regarding the consent agenda?
I move.
I moved. I need a second.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion passes. Old business, excuse me, yes, old business is the next item on our agenda. City's traffic calming policy discussion. We're looking for council and staff. We'll continue our discussions on possible policy changes, and we'll turn this over to staff for a lead in the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wolfley. City Council, we had last discussed the city's traffic calming policy back in November, last meeting in November. And the council had asked us to take a look at a few things in regards to not only looking at some things to include in the budget for next year, but also what we could do now on a sooner basis in regards to further addressing traffic calming, as well as taking a look at the city's traffic calming policy, which is the council knows the city had really taken from Prince George's County and had adopted it largely wholesale in regards to applying it back to the city of Bowie. We've had some opportunity as a staff to meet. We have what we refer to internally as a traffic management work group. That is a cross-departmental group of employees that work on traffic management issues through both design and enforcement. So we have folks from Public Works, folks from law enforcement and the police department, and a smattering of others can also be involved associated with that. So we've had some opportunity internally to talk about it. This is not the end of the discussion ultimately in regards to traffic calming, but we wanted to provide an update in terms of what we've been working on and what we have. Tonight, Public Works Director Jose Aldez is with us, and Chief Dwayne Preston is also with us to talk about what they've included in their budget, so we can look forward to in the coming weeks for the council consideration, and also in the interim. Jose, would you like to get us started with what you've got?
Yes. Good evening, council members, and to the public. My name is Jose Aldez. I'm the Director of the Public Works Department for the City of Bowie. And in terms, very clear, and what I'm doing for this fiscal year and next fiscal year 25, is to continue the implementation of the complete streets that pretty much has to do a lot to do with both visual and physical alteration to streets, so residents can enjoy, fully enjoy the streets. So we have planned construction for the King Hill Street and a design for another street in the area. Also, I'm partnering with the Planning and Sustainability Department and implementing simple streetlight solutions in terms of modification to streets, in terms of painting or modifying curvature red eye. And there are little things that we can do and we can coordinate, and we'll do those along with the pavement resurfacing projects. So in other words, when we're gonna go and we're gonna provide planning with our schedule of streets that are being resurfaced for the remainder of this fiscal year and fiscal year 25, and we're going to see which of these areas can benefit of simple solutions that can aid with in terms of traffic calming. It will be more of a visual. The third thing that I implemented in my budget for fiscal year 25 is the incorporation of more funds, a request for more funds from the City Council to conduct traffic studies that, especially for stop sign location, not the traffic calming, because we do those on the house. So that I'm planning for use resources, in-house resources for that traffic calming studies. But there are other studies that some of the members of the City Council had requested for four-way stops, one-way stop, and different things. And those involve consultants. And right now, the average cost for those is about $6,000. And so, unfortunately, for past years, we didn't have a lot of money for that. So I'm making sure that for fiscal year 25, when council members have a resident that wants to do the study, there is enough money to cover that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Jose. At this time, does council have any questions in regards to what Jose was presenting?
Yes, we do. Let's see, Mr. Estev, Councilman Estev.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. And just to thank you to all my colleagues. I know we've been talking about this for some time and we'll continue talking about it through budget, so I just appreciate your patience with this. The stop signs are not contemplated in our traffic management program. They are a reality of traffic control. How are we contemplating or thinking about stop signs generally going forward? Because I understand the study for those are considerable. And similar to our speed studies, rarely result in an affirmative recommendation. So kind of, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, sir. Those type of studies are required to be done by a traffic engineer, a certified traffic engineer. And at this time, the city of Bowie does not have a professional engineer certified as a traffic engineer. So that's why we have to go to our consultants that have that. And so what we do is, whenever we have a contract with different A&E firms, that we can just ask for an estimate, and then once we get the estimate, we'll just commission the study. That's the way it's done.
So I'd like to add on to that. You're correct. We do not view stop signs as a means of traffic management in and of itself, in terms of saying we will reduce traffic volumes or to slow traffic through the use of stop signs at intersections. However, as the community evolves, traffic patterns change. We certainly do have intersections that may see more use as people look for a cut-through opportunity or things along those lines, which may drive an intersection that had not previously met warrants for stop signs. If there's been a change in volume or other circumstances, they may qualify in the future. So it is an important part of the overall traffic management in terms of looking at those changes. So we would need to have some more resources if a change that we're looking at may drive some other impact on adjacent roadways or conditions within the community itself as that changes, being able to look at those.
If I might also add to it, this is the first year in the 2 years and almost a half that I'm with the city. In this period of time, in the last probably 8 months, like no time before, I have received 2 requests from council members for a placement of stop sign, and one is currently in Acela, so that I had to respond and say, hey, we need to get some authorization from City Council. So.
One thing I'd like to add, with regard to the results of the traffic study that the engineer would do, I mean, the council has the right to overrule that recommendation and give us direction to install a four-way stop or whatever the issue is. And that's your prerogative.
Thank you.
quick follow-up. The requirement that you described, Mr. Alduez, that that the particular traffic study be conducted, is that an internal City of Bowie policy requirement, or is that a requirement of county or state law?
Probably, I'm not familiar with it in the state of Maryland. I'm sorry about it. I'm being honest about it. But in the state of Wisconsin, any traffic studies that are not commissioned by a professional engineer are liable for open to legal action. And I know many instances when things like happen in the realm of bridges, and so that requires also a professional engineer.
We can check the rules, the state law, Mr. Esteb, to see what the requirement is. I believe it's a practice. It is a prudent professional practice that we're doing, but we'll verify that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Esteve. Councilmember Ndebumadu.
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem Wolfley. I appreciate the presentation. It's helpful and informative. I guess I'm a little confused because the last time I understood us walking away from the conversation and the discussion, I don't want to say directive, but our request was to find short-term solutions that we could be able to leverage today, given that all of the streets that we brought forward were not eligible for speed cameras or weren't even appropriate for speed cameras. And we were looking to explore things like rumble strips or other opportunities. And so is the understanding that we are going to wait until we pass a budget? Because I distinctly remember the conversation, and the conversation was that we felt like that was too far to wait to pass a budget to adopt some of these new methodologies. So I guess I'm looking for the short-term solutions because that was what the directive was the last go around. And I don't know that I heard that this evening, and I could be misunderstanding, but I didn't hear the direction on the short-term solutions that we'd be able to employ to calm traffic today, not after the budget is passed. Am I misunderstanding what our discussion is focused on today?
No, let me help out a little bit. We also are going to hear from Chief Preston as well. I just wanted to get some response back to Mr. Aldiuse. He did mention in regards to working with planning, planning has some areas that they've identified that can benefit from pavement marking in terms of delineating the radii of certain areas. Mr. Aldiuse was talking about implementing those through a painting program that he's got resources that he can allocate out to begin to do that. So he's begun conversation with the planning department, and he can incorporate that into his road work right away.
Thanks for the context. Just a follow-up question. So the list of streets that some of us sent over that didn't make some of the more intensive calming measures, will that list be prioritized as an effort of this work?
That's reasonable, yes.
Okay, that's a great assumption. I'd like to move forward on that. And then can we just get a follow-up after that conversation with planning to see, timeline on when that painting initiative or calming initiative will be established?
Yes, we can follow up further.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Rogers.
So I thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I did put my hand down because I want to give the Chief of Police an opportunity to do his part of the presentation, and my questions may be answered. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, you've done the same? You're on mute, sir.
A couple of my questions were answered. One being making sure to check that when it comes to the stop signs, whether or not there was any liability to the city if we didn't use actual traffic officer or someone who is familiar in that area, and if there was any liability to us as a city if we simply put them in and something happened. but I think the city manager said they would check that. So that's fine. And the second thing went along with a couple of the other things about implementing some of those things that we could do short term. And I'm going to, I think, Council Member Andrew Mamadu addressed that. And also, just like Council Member Rogers, I'll wait to hear from the chief about some of the other things that they're currently doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pardon me. Councilmember Brady.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I've got a couple of questions, but I want to kind of preface it that I think my frustrations over the years when I was previously on the council was, I think, a bit of a lack of a systemic approach by staff to look at this. Instead, we seemed to rely on residents complaining, and then we gave them basically what many considered an onerous application process that usually resulted in denial of their requests. So I think we need to move it back to where we evaluate it. There was a discussion about getting a traffic engineer. I can understand that for the design of the solution, but I think we can do more in-house with an assessment and evaluation of whether there are speeding issues on roads and a similar type thing. And, you know, it just strikes me as we've got hundreds and hundreds of streets in the city. Not all of them need to have traffic calming measures on them. You know, you have a cul-de-sac that has 4 houses, they're not going to have a problem. You have a lane, a short lane. It tends to be the drives, the wider streets, especially those that connect 2 major arteries where you have cut-through traffic. And I think we need to, just start off with an evaluation of all those. I'd put striping, if they aren't there already on drives, I'd put them on all of them and start from there. Look at the possibility of other opportunities. And I'll follow up on a comment I made the last time we talked about this. With the traffic calming that was done as part of the Melford with regards to the 2 always stops, I think we've opened the Pandora's box to that being an item in our toolbox to deal with. And so I can see where it would be supportable, as an example, with Superior and, help me out, with Stony Brook. Be an ideal place for an always stop. And I would say the main justification for that we already have in the other end of Stony Brook with Bel Air and Ken Hill Drive with Bel Air. I would also suggest with the street modifications, chokers and islands similar to what you did there by the ice rink, where you make it feel narrower on these main drags where you get people to slow down. You know, when Bowie was built, when many communities like ours were built in the late 50s through the early 70s, I think there's a big difference from today in the attitude people had. You had the young high school kid who would floor the car and go speeding through the subdivision, but most people generally obeyed the law. Now we have, it's kind of like, it's like the law, what's that? And so I think it's an attitude of society that we need to address, and I'd be open for any solutions on how we can address that. But I think we need to approach it at a staff level as a systemic problem and apply engineering evaluation to look at it before we have to spend a lot of money, because I agree that we need to have the traffic engineer design the solution so that we don't open ourselves up for possible liability through a court system if an accident does occur. And he's going to be costly, but I think we can do a lot of the analysis either in-house or at a lower rate to bring a contractor in, just mainly to do the studies of the speeds on the different roads. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. And we'll turn the conversation back over to you, Mr. Mears.
Great, thank you very much. Chief Preston.
Good evening, members of council and the public. I'm Chief Preston with the Police Department. Want to first talk to some of the current efforts that the Police Department is taking as it relates to traffic enforcement. We established in partnership with our Public Works Division, a traffic management work group. And the purpose of that was to evaluate and have a coordinated response to some of the traffic challenges that we see throughout the city, with whether it's police enforcement, placement of speed cameras, some of the traffic studies that are requested through Public Works, and the placement of some of the deterrence measures like speed signs and speed trailers. And so, that is something that, and also as it relates to speed studies, oftentimes we want to make sure that the results of those are effective. So Public Works will make us aware when a speed study is being conducted so that we won't be doing enforcement at the same time. That way the accurate information that is received is something that is actionable. But out of that, what we've done is we've instituted selected enforcement that is assigned to every patrol squad. We have our own speed measuring devices assigned to the police department. So our traffic officer will conduct assessment based upon complaints that has been received from the public on those particular roadways. And the reason why we found it to be important to do that, it allows us to be more efficient with the deployment of our resources to know exactly the day of the week and the time of the day where speeding is most prevalent on those streets. And based upon that, the assignments are given for enforcement to be conducted during that time period. So we've had a mixed result as it relates to the enforcement of those. Some complaints we found to not be valid that we have received from the public. And some of the streets are particularly difficult for us to set up in a safe manner to conduct speed enforcement. That information is reported out every 2 weeks when we have crime meetings through our patrol lieutenant in terms of the efforts that are taken. The majority of the enforcement efforts being taken, warnings have been issued with citations for particularly egregious cases. One of the other things is that we deploy speed trailers. We have 2 speed trailers that are assigned to the police department, and these are in addition to the speed signs that Public Works would deploy. So we place those in areas of the city as a deterrent also. There is some grant funding that we have received from the state of Maryland, but there are parameters surrounding that in terms of particular timeframes and efforts that can be taken in areas to conduct those enforcements. So we do those from time to time for aggressive driving, distracted driving, and things of that sort. As it relates to speed cameras, that's the last thing I'll speak of is we added 4 additional cameras in this fiscal year. So now we have a total of 12 cameras. The last 4 cameras were recently delivered, in the early part of January, late part of December, early part of January. So we're fully active with the 12 cameras. We previously had 8, and those locations that were approved by the city council. So we have a total of 33 locations, a combination of residential and school zones that are approved locations throughout the city of Bowie. What we're doing is a rotation of the first 10 on that list, and that information has been shared and is also public on the website as to where those camera locations are. And then we will have a periodic rotation, probably within the 30 to 60 days, we will rotate to additional locations based upon the recommendations from the traffic management work group. And that's kind of an update from the police department. I'll take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate your input on this. Anybody here, any questions or comments? Online, Council Member Rogers.
Thank you. So I was waiting for the chief to do his presentation before I made any comments. I will tell you that the speed camera on Dunwood Valley Drive caused a whole lot of ruckus back here in my neighborhood for sure. But I think it's a good thing because people need to pay attention to their speed. And I also told them, the mayor lives on that street too. So people have been, actually people have been doing pretty good, I'm hoping. with that. But I wanted to get back to a couple points that were made. One was, I think Councilman Brady brought up a systematic approach to this. And the other thing I want to bring up is more so a holistic approach to traffic calming. When I did my research preparing for this, I saw that four-way stops are not considered traffic calming, but neighborhoods want them. So I understand the need and desire, but I don't think the results will be what they want. But as we think through this, and I think the simple solutions starting out are the best, the painting, the curvature, red lines, things of that sort. But we also have to keep in mind public education, educating our communities on traffic and speed, also moving into more an environmental aspect, which is, we'll have more walkers. We want to have more bike riders. And runners as well. So when we think about these things, we need to think about it from a big picture perspective, not just creating a remedy to an immediate problem. What we want to do is create a strategic change in behavior, not only for our drivers, but also the people that live in the community and people that come into our community. They should expect that when they drive into Bowie, there will be for lack of a better way, a lockdown on how fast you're going to drive around, not only because of the speed cameras, but we have a community that's very aware of the need to drive according to the speed limit. So I think everything that has been talked about is a good thing, but I think we need to come back and look at this from and I'm not saying stop. I think you still should proceed, but an awareness within our Bowie community about the importance of not speeding through public education, as well as those simple solutions will take us a long way, I'm quite sure. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Rogers. Anybody else? Any additional comments? I'm sorry, Mr. Brady?
Thank you again, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you again, Chief, on your comments and your suggestions and what have you. A couple of questions. Do we track the speeding tickets as far as where they come from? Are they Bowie residents or are they non-Bowie residents? Do we have that data in-house? So is it, the old thing for those of us that are older, there's an old Pogo comic strip, and Pogo was famous by saying, "We've met the enemy and they are us." And sometimes when we have speeding problems, it's our neighbors doing it. It's not somebody coming from Crofton or Laurel or someplace else, but we need to have that information, statistics. Do we collect that?
I know that information is available for relating to the Safe Speed Program, the speed camera citations that are issued. As it relates to the citations or warnings that are issued by the officers, that is a database that has been created that we call Delta Plus that we utilize, that was created by Maryland State Police. I will seek the specific answer as to whether or not that information can be obtained from those citations.
Okay.
I'll get back to you.
Because that would help us on figuring out our approach on how we do the outreach, because it's easier to reach people in the city through the city government than it is somebody who lives somewhere else. And you talked about the cameras and you're going to rotate them around and what have you. Are they being rotated between established, installed enclosures, or do you move the enclosures too?
The goal is for the vendor to eventually install the housing units at all 33 locations. And so those will not, be moved around. It would just be the actual cameras that are installed inside of those housing units. But they're in the process. So all of those locations have not yet had the housing installed.
Right.
But they are in the process of doing it.
But the goal is to get there.
Yes.
Well, good. And there's an added cost for multiple enclosures, but at the same time, it's also beneficial because people won't know if the enclosure has a camera or it doesn't have a camera. And we can utilize that to try and influence the attitude of the drivers. And I agree with Councilman Rogers about the educational and the outreach that we need to do. We need to figure out how we do it, because as I said earlier, I think it's an issue with society's acceptance or non-acceptance of following the rule of law. And I think we need to figure out how do we do that. Do we reach out to our community-based, our faith-based things and try and get a discussion started to try and educate people on the need, especially when you have neighborhoods where you have small children and the possibility that, you know, a little child up against a big 2,000-pound car, you know who's going to lose that battle. So we don't need to have that discussion. So, but I commend you on what you're doing, and whatever we can do to help support that, I will be more than happy to help out. So, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Just a follow on to your comments and that of Councilwoman Rogers. We do have the ability on warning citations to print a public message and craft that so that it's individual to address the current concerns that we're seeing. So we're working on that. We can make language that would help educate the community in terms of the issue of speeding or whatever. If we're having an issue, a high incident of traffic accidents or a particular area, we have the ability to craft a message, you know, when we issue a warning or a citation to someone indicating what the behavior is that we're trying to change. So we will continue to utilize that. One of our budget objectives for FY25 is to focus on education of motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians as it relates to traffic safety. So that is something that's a focus, and using multiple means, whether it is, you know, messaging through videos and social media postings. I have an upcoming meeting with all of the faith-based institutions next month. And so that's something that we will put on the agenda, you know, to talk to them and elicit their help with dealing with the issue of traffic safety. Is we could put that on the agenda as well.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just had a question returning back to the policy itself, if that's okay.
Mr. Estep, yes, please.
Okay. A couple quick things. I noticed I got some pretty detailed feedback from a few residents, and there were two things I just wanted to take up. Nothing we're going to settle tonight, but I just wanted to know if we can contemplate it in the traffic work group that you guys are putting together as these discussions continue. The first is the question in the actual point-based assignment for traffic studies for traffic calming. For the speed criteria, they're using an older national standard looking at the 85th percentile of speed to assign certain point evaluations. The feedback that I'm getting from some folks who work in the space is that that standard is kind of falling out of favor right now. They ask us to simply consider taking a look at potentially updating that policy based on newer and better practices. The other one has to do with the evaluation of points, with the actual percentage requirement for residents who are filling out petitions for traffic calming. And several residents think that the 51% proposed may still be a bit too high. That's also something that I just wanted to peg that I'm going to be following up on with you guys, but just wanted to know those two things.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Estep. Councilwoman Rogers, pardon me, I'm sorry. Let me turn back to staff for a response. I apologize.
I was just going to mention, I was going to run through some of the proposed changes and where we're at in regards to going over the policy in a minute. And I'll address that at that time.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Councilmember Rogers.
Okay, thank you. A couple other things I wanted to just mention back on the policy. It's my understanding that the speed limits on the speeding cameras are usually about 12 miles over what those limits should be before they get a ticket. And driving through some of these communities, say for instance, Dunwood Valley Drive, which is my community, even 25 miles per hour is still a bit high, particularly if someone's child runs or grandchild runs into the street. 25 miles an hour is still a pretty fast speed. So that's just something to throw out to think about that I got some feedback on. Also, in the past, I used to see signs that I used to see deer crossing all the time, but I used to see signs on neighborhood streets that said children at play, those types of things. I don't see them anymore, or maybe my community is so old that I wouldn't see them. But that's, and maybe I'm going old school, but people pay attention to those types of signs. So I just throw that out as something to think about. That's it. Thank you. Great job, everybody. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. What I'd like to state along those lines are two things. The first being, I think it's important that we include, I think the point that everybody has made about education, but particularly to you, Chief, I really would like to make sure that we reinstate that information to our schools. You know, we can communicate a lot through our children to their parents. So I think we should look at a plan of addressing the schools in a way so that we inform them about how important it is for parents and others to follow the speed limit. And hopefully that message will get along as well. Historically, I've seen that work in areas, and I really would like to see us implement something along those lines as well, so that not only are we talking to the kids who will talk to parents, but also through the local PTAs and other things to really continue to get some message out. So I think that's a good form as well. And number two, it's a slightly different subject, but I am happy to hear about what MML was able to do in getting the highway user funds back. Is that correct? That the governor has put that back in? At our city attorney. Never mind. We'll move on. I'll make sure that we talk to our finance director to make sure those numbers are included in the budget. Okay.
I don't know what the numbers are. There was a restoration in the last session. Of course, one never knows what's going to happen in the current session. But I am sure that your finance department has those numbers for you.
Yeah, that's something that I think was done yesterday or last Friday. Anyway, it's new. Or was it today? Anyway, moving right along. But yeah, I think the education portion, I think it truly is important that, as the fellow council members have said, that we take a systematic approach to this. That we not do it cobblestone, that we really look at the overall system of what we want in Bowie and how we approach citizen safety when it comes to our traffic flows. Thank you, and I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor Adams. Appreciate it. And it is indeed good news if that is indeed the case, that we have restoration funds. We do rely upon that extensively. So that's a very important part of our budget. Councilmember Rogers.
My apologies. I forgot to put my hand down.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Mr. Mears, you indicated that you were going to be stepping through the policy and indicating some changes.
Yeah, I wanted to finish up by just running through the traffic management work group has one time gone through with putting some changes together to the policy. As Chief Preston had mentioned, the traffic management work group is a new group. It was formed in 2023, so they are still working through in terms of how they're going to work together and how they're going to bring more proposals forward. But they have begun to look at the policy. Before getting into that, just wanted to mention in regards to the mayor's comment about the restoration of funds for highway user revenues. At this stage, I believe we would have seen the governor's proposed budget. It will certainly have to work through the entire legislature with all of their funding needs. So I'm not familiar with what number may have been included in his budget, but we will see as the legislature moves forward whether or not what he proposed remains, or if the legislature has different ideas in regards to how to maintain that. In terms of...
Crossed. I apologize. Go ahead.
Right. So in terms of the policy that we're looking at, we had a few changes because, as the council rightly noted, we should really have a Bowie-branded traffic management policy in terms of that takes care of our concerns. And one of the first things that was looked at was in regards to, we have levels of mitigation in regards to what can be done on streets to affect traffic calming. And there were 3 levels that were included in there. And the first proposed changes that are going to be coming about really help to expand the distinctions between level 1 measures and the level 2 and level 3 measures. To go along with the comments that were made, the level 1 measures are being expanded to expand language associated with striping and visual cues in regards to traffic calming. Councilwoman Rogers mentioned about the need for more awareness signage. This is not something that is specifically called out in the county's policy, but we did add a provision in that in regards to awareness signage. And this can be children at play. This can be messages such as slow down and other things along those lines to incorporate more of that into our streets. And the other thing is speed detection systems. Part of education is letting people know that they are speeding and that they have awareness that they're going over the speed limit. A lot of times when people are going down the road, they're not looking at what their speed limit is. They're looking at the surroundings around them, and having more of those opportunities for visual cues for awareness is a big part of that. So the proposal was to expand out the level 1 measures with those elements. The moving into the level 2 and the level 3 mitigations, these are the things that really begin to have a physical impact on the driver on the roadway in terms of whether it be elevation changes through speed tables, or it is changing the horizontal alignment of a roadway through a choker or another device. And these are the elements that have a greater impact on the community. And beyond what is communicated through the study, there needs to also be some community buy-in. As we heard, we had some varying reactions in regards to speed cameras so far. Folks that are getting a ticket will have a very different reaction than the person that is right by it that's watching the traffic moving more slowly down their street. There are always different perceptions in regards to how these come about. So one of the recommendations with this, in order to have that community buy-in be more effective, was to bring the survey participation part down to a 60% level for the level 2 and the level 3 measures in terms of that portion of the policy that is in place. The other recommendation that was included in there is associated with the level 1 measures. Those are those visual and educational elements. In that, to give more of that community buy-in when there is a strong perception issue that is sitting in the community, to have a survey option, to have what's proposed as a simple majority for the community that they can request, and we can work towards implementing more of those level 1 measures. So they are visible, they are tangible things that can be seen, but not ultimately changing the physical alignments of roadways, which have larger implications for traffic management and ultimately budget for the city council as well, which I'm would imagine is something that we want to have or retain some control over. We don't want to turn our budget decisions over to survey responses of the community that may or may not reflect the best course of action. So what I wanted to comment in regards to this, these changes that we have, this is a draft of some changes. There was a mention about taking a look at the calculation requirements. That is certainly a task that we can take on in the next stages. The traffic management work group, bring in some expertise and take a look at those calculations to make sure that we are calculating things correctly. I think one of the challenges, and Councilman Brady brought it up very well. You know, we've seen the enemy. The enemy is us. We are the ones that are driving too fast, and we are the ones that are perceiving that we are driving too fast as well. Many of the times that studies have been completed in the past, that perception of speeding has not been borne out. The traffic counts, looking at the speeds in terms of what's going on, there is not a disproportionate problem. Certainly, we'll always have a person that one time or another flies by, but it's to separate out so we make sure that we're putting the mitigation efforts in the places where the problems are really existing and working to help educate the community in terms of areas where maybe it seems like there's an issue, but it's not as large of an issue in terms of what the speed is. We're dealing both with the real and the perceived when we're working on traffic management issues. Let's see, one other comment that I wanted to make. There was a comment in regards to what speed cameras do and how they relate to some of our lower speed communities. There is that 12 mile per hour over that is based on state law. That is not something that ultimately the city of Bowie has control over, so we must comply with state law when it comes to the speed cameras and that speed differential. And certainly that is a larger of a difference when you're dealing with a road that is 25 or 30 miles an hour versus a road that is 50 miles an hour in regards to what that change is. So there is a different applicability in terms of how that's going to work. And as the police department gets more data in regards to the effectiveness of these neighborhood speed cameras, we're going to learn more about whether or not they're actually achieving the goal or they're just not catching what the perception of the problem is. I'll leave it there. Are there any more questions for us? I did want to mention this is a continued work in progress. The traffic management group is going to meet again, take more of this feedback and continue on, and it will certainly be impacted in the budget documents coming before the council soon.
Thank you, Mr. Mears. Appreciate it. I'll turn to my colleagues, see if anybody has any further questions. Mr. Stead? No? Mr. Brady? Online, Mr. Adams? Mayor Adams?
Yes, thank you so very much, Mayor Pro Tem. I just wanted to say that I think you did, and city staff did a great job putting together the information you have provided to us. And it can tell that you took time, effort, and the feedback you've gotten from the council, I'm sure, is very positive. I think one of the things you said, Mr. Mears, that was really important and kind of turning it a different way is in some of these areas, we don't need to have a solution seeking a problem. And so I think you're right that all of this is not needed in every area. I think it will take that comprehensive study, that opportunity for the chief and others to really get a grasp of what's going on, see what's going on, and really give us some feedback so that we don't overly address the issue when it comes to traffic calming and go beyond the necessity. And I'm not talking just from a cost standpoint, but also we want to make sure that there's a convenience to the citizens as they travel through the city, where we want them to be safe, but we don't want it to be a burden on them as well. So thank you so very much, staff, for what you've done and what you presented. I think you guys have done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, a couple of thoughts and questions from me. First one, and these are in no particular order other than the way the chicken scratch ended up on my piece of paper. Presently, proposals for mitigation, really, the onus for getting that done is on those in favor, those supporting it. And to Councilman Brady's earlier comment, it almost seems like we've turned it into a process that yields more no's than it does yeses, yet as a community at large, we have a problem that's clear and present. One of the things I'd like you and your committee to consider, your traffic management work group, is switching things around, which is to say, instead of requiring 50 or 60% to approve, that we might instead flip it around and say, send out a notice to the residents on the affected street and make the requirement that 50% disapprove. There is a large middle group that is indifferent and won't answer one way or the other, but it makes the burden a lot greater for those who are trying to advance a change to solve a present problem. And I think if we switched it around and said, we are going to make the assumption that we generally want to do this, let's find a reason if there is a problem. If the community really does not, then we should avoid it. So if you would take that back to the working group, see how that might get flipped around, and maybe it loosens things up a bit in terms of managing. It might also make it quicker and less of a burden on the community. Such would be simple enough to send out notices and await a return in X number of days. There may be some other barriers to entry. We don't want everybody, soliciting these mitigation tools. But I think that if we flipped it around, we might better serve the community at large. First, that's first item. And as I said, in no particular order, there are bollards on Route 197. So this is a two-part question. The first is, have we received back, I know that there was going to be some outreach, have we received back any word on the efficacy of the bollards on 197 from the State Highway Administration as to their efficacy in slowing down traffic?
So the quick answer to that is no, we have not, or we don't have information in regards to the efficacy of the bollards. We did get a response back from our letter asking the state to take a look at traffic calming measures associated with it, and we were advised that they're going to be in a study period for that. But we can certainly follow up in regards to including what data they have in regards to what has happened to speeds with the result of putting up those little plastic bollards all along the roadway.
Yeah, I can tell you from anecdotally from one observation point, which would be me, it seems that it does have a positive effect of slowing people down on that road, but I don't know that for a fact, which leads to part two, which is there room for bollards? If they are effective, is there room for bollards of that nature in our own traffic calming?
So it can be a tool that is used. I have had prior experience in other communities where we have implemented those in residential neighborhoods. You do find that the community can turn against those because what happens in the middle of the night when some teenagers go cruising down the road and there is a loud thwop, 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 thwop as the vehicles are going down, the community begins to disfavor them very quickly. So these are not good to drive your car into. It's
No, they're not.
It's not good for the paint. Don't do it if you value your car. So in certain applications, they can work. You will find them more on major thoroughfares, like metering people into a merge or things along those lines. Less applicability in residential neighborhoods.
I would think that perhaps where we're changing the radius of a turn or a corner, there might be some value there. Please have them take a look at it, and you may be right. It may be more of an opportunity to attract mischief than it is to reduce traffic. But please, someone take a look at that for us. Public education, there's been some discussion about that. I would also like to expand on the comments made earlier. Perhaps education could also go towards people identifying, helping people to understand that what they're seeing may, in fact, not be a problem. If you're standing still and someone goes by and you're in the street, it seems a lot faster than if you're standing up on your sidewalk, and depending on where you view it and how close the car is to you, what have you, there may be some educational opportunities just to let people know in general what traffic calming is, what the limits are, and the perception of speed versus reality. Not to dismiss people's commentary, but sometimes some explanation, goes a long way to a better understanding of the real circumstances. There was another comment I had on the signs mentioned coming into a community. Can we investigate if there are any programs kind of for cities that that aggressively enforce traffic? If there's kind of, there's always the, community groups that engage in, watch groups that support police, and that might be announced as you come into a city. Perhaps there's something similar we could do when you come into the city of Bowie, announcing that, we actually enforce our traffic rules. Please follow them. And there may be some similar programs out there that have, catchphrases or labels that would be beneficial to help establish us as a community that takes traffic issues seriously. And I think that's all I have. I think most everybody else covered, and we'll look to see further input as we progress along this path. So thank you very much. Go back once more. Any go backs for folks on the council? Going once, going twice. Yep. Mr. Brady?
Yeah, thank you. Just to follow up on the point you were making with education. And I think I had a discussion with you some time ago, Mr. Mayor. Maybe we should look at, as part of the education, establishing a way where a group of residents can do a speed assessment on their street by checking out a radar gun and recording the information over a period of time, and it may help catch people who are speeding as far as identifying them, not to stop them, to not be police or anything. And it also may educate those that think everyone's speeding to find out that no, they're actually doing the speed limit. So I think it could be beneficial in both ways. Maybe if we could come up with the cost for something like that, a structure that the program would have, what kind of information would they have to be collecting, what are the rules that they have to follow. So, it may be beneficial in educating those that are doubters that everyone speeds. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. All right, thank you, staff. Oh, I do see there's one more, Councilmember Rogers.
Yeah, just one quick question. Just getting back to my colleague's comment earlier on. When do we expect to have that next iteration of an update or something that tells us how progress is going around the policy?
Mr. Mears?
We have an upcoming police department update in February for the city council. So my suggestion is we will probably have a recommendation for you.
So I didn't hear the last part of what you said, Chief.
So we come back before council with the police department's update, and so at that point, we can include the update from the traffic management work group at that time.
Okay, all right. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all. Great discussion. We look forward to for updates on that subject. All righty, now we'll move on to new business. Councilman Ndebumadu. This was discussion on Mr. Peters, Douglas J.J. Peters, and the recognition. I'll turn the floor to you.
Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Wolfley, did you turn it over to me?
Yes.
I think my question is clear. I just want to know a timeline on when the naming is going to happen.
Mayor Pro Tem, this issue was brought before the council back in August. And at the time, it was about the Nash project. And that's the park and planning property. Park and planning, after we made inquiries, made a decision to take a second look and redo their criteria for naming parks. And we have not gotten an update from them. We can go back and ask them if they've completed the process, but they were just initiating it in August of last year. So, and just as a matter, so everybody will understand, this is not a city authority here. All we can do is ask the questions, and we certainly will do that. And maybe a question should be posed to maybe our county rep, but we'll ask from the staff level to see where the process is, but I believe it's still under review. But we'll get back to you in an email form or a status report form on where that is.
Can I just follow up and ask Mayor Pro Tem Wolfley? I guess I'm trying to understand. That's helpful context. Why did we vote on it? I guess that's the part that I'm confused on.
If I may, I believe it was I believe the vote was, if memory serves me, was to advance the idea to the county, to Park and Planning, to solicit their action to rename the trails in that park. And that was the wish of the city, and to see if they would be interested in complying with that request. I do think that obviously subsequent to that, we've had the unfortunate and untimely passing of Senator Peters, and that may in fact change the calculus on how they assess the naming request, given that I believe the naming, they may have raised actually consideration that they didn't name facilities, parks, or other items until, posthumously was, I think, the response. I don't know that. Is that correct, Mr. Mears?
Yes, that's correct. And as Mr. Lott stated, they were in the process of reevaluating their entire naming process in terms of what that was. So I think what we need to do is find out whether or not they are considering it, or if they're still waiting until they complete their review of how they name properties.
Excellent. Look forward to receiving some feedback from them. Councilmember Ndebumadu, any further questions?
No, just to close the loop on my time. I look forward to hearing the update and what Park and Planning has to say, and then if there is a email or a phone call that we need to make to County Council Member Watson, then if you could just let us know on that email, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ndebumadu. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I am looking for a motion, everybody's favorite motion.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a first motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Session's adjourned.